Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Sean's Horror Corner. I'm Sugar Sean Rhodes. Apparently, yeah, that doesn't work. My friend Robbie over at that horror couple really wanted me to say that. My friends at Horror 365 seem to have given me some nicknames, and that was one of them. But yeah, I don't know that that works. But anyway, we'll move on. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you tuning in. Subscriber count has been going up. Thank you to everybody who's been subscribing to the channel, who's been sharing the videos, who's been commenting, liking, hyping, sharing on social media and following me there. The horror community, I've said this a million times, is such an amazing place. And so I just want to thank everybody for all of your support, your encouragement, and helping me continue to try to grow this channel. You guys are the best. So thank you all so much. Today, we are going to be talking Psycho 3 from 1986. I've covered the first two films in this franchise already. If you haven't seen those episodes, they're out there. Go back and watch those. Huge fan of the first movie. I think the original Psycho from 1960 is a masterpiece, so amazing. I also really like the second film. I think it's a solid sequel and maybe even a little underrated for the most part. Doesn't get talked about enough. And now we have Psycho 3. And, I remembered liking this movie. I feel like I thought I was had really enjoyed this one as well. Um, hadn't watched it in a while, but recently bought I should have brought it in here, but recently bought the like a 4K set of Psycho 2, 3, and 4 because I didn't own those. So purchased that to, one, increase my collection because I love that, but two, to watch this movie again, watch it in 4K. And I was excited about this rewatch because, like I said, I thought I remembered being a fan of this one. But let's go ahead and get into Psycho 3 from 1986. I'm going to get a drink of coffee real quick because it's early in the morning when I'm recording this one. And I'm still trying to wake up. All right. Tagline for the film: Norman Bates is back to normal, but mother's off her rocker again. Brief synopsis for this film: when Maureen Clark, a suicidal nun who resembles Norman's former victim, Marion Crane, arrives at the motel, all bets are off, and mother is less than happy. All right. Excuse me one second. Film was released July 2nd of 1986, directed by Anthony Perkins, written by Charles Edward Pogue, maybe how you pronounce that. A runtime of 93 minutes, $8.4 million budget, $14.4 million at the box office. Cast: Anthony Perkins, Diana Scarwood, Jeff Fahey, or Faha, I'm not sure how you say his name either, Roberta Maxwell, and Hugh Gillen. Let's stop there. Let's talk cast, characters, and some of those type of things. Anthony Perkins, we'll start there. Big fan of Anthony Perkins. I thought he gave an absolutely iconic performance as Norman Bates in the first Psycho film. I thought he was really good in the second Psycho film. I like Anthony Perkins, but I feel like going to this franchise, and as we go through it, I don't want to say he did a bad job. He didn't do a bad job, but this is probably he was better in 1 and 2. I don't know how else to put it. Again, not that he does a bad job. I just feel like he was better in the first couple of movies. One of the things that I felt like, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but one of the things I felt like with this movie upon my rewatch the other day was that, I've talked before about we don't need backstory for everything. And this is not a backstory movie, but trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. This is not a backstory film. But sometimes the scariest things about our horror villains is when we don't try to over-explain them. We don't need too much. I feel like Michael Myers, for example, is much scarier in the first, Halloween 1 to maybe 4, when we're not trying to give so much backstory and explain why he is what he is. It's scarier when we don't know, right? I feel like that also applies to a certain degree to maybe Jason. Now, again, Jason's backstory is established in the first film, but you know what I'm trying to say. We don't need too much of an explanation sometimes to make these villains the way they are, and we don't want to overcomplicate these villains because I feel like that also takes away from the scary factor. And I feel like as we're getting further into this Psycho franchise now, part of what made Norman Bates so scary in the first Psycho film especially is the way the switch would flip, because he was so charming, right? When he wasn't Mother, he was so charming. He seemed like such a nice guy. He just had this charisma to him that made you like Norman. And then when the switch flipped and he was Mother, then things turned. I feel like as we get further into this franchise, the charm is slowly going away because we're trying to go too much into Norman's psyche. I just feel like we're starting to overdo it a little bit by that point. And I probably just spoiled a lot of my thoughts where this movie is concerned, but I just wanted to put that out there where this character is concerned, because I feel like the character is better in the first movie, still good in the second movie, and now by this third movie, I'm like, okay, Norman's still fine, but I just don't like the character as much in this one as I do those first couple. And I feel like Anthony Perkins' performance is not as strong in this one as it was the first couple. The rest of the cast is fine. Jeff, again, I don't know how you say his name, if it's Fahi, whatever. I feel like he does pretty good in this film in his role, although I almost feel like in some ways it's a little overdone. But I mean, it is what it is. It's fine. The rest of the cast does a decent job. It's okay. Um, you watch a Psycho movie for Norman, and so that's really where your focus is at. And it's just a step down a little bit from what we've seen in the other films so far, in my opinion. As far as this story, I'm right there with almost that same viewpoint. It's a little bit overdone. It was amazing in the first film. I like what they did with the second film. Now with this movie, in the second film, Norman's innocent for the most part. I mean, he's trying to recover, and other people are fucking with him. And in this film, Norman's back to crazy again, and which is fine, but it just, I almost feel like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't buy the relationship here. I'm really getting ahead of myself, between Norman and drawing a blank on her name, the Maureen, the nun. I wasn't buying that. Her character's so awkward, and I mean, I guess I get it. Norman's awkward as well, and so these two awkward people meet, and they see something in each other. But I don't know. I didn't feel like there was really the chemistry there. Um, I wasn't a fan of her character as well. So there are just some things that I was struggling with in that, and this story. I'm just like, okay. And I feel like we're trying too hard. I haven't read the novels. I just recently purchased the novel for the first Psycho film by Robert Bloch. I've never read the original novel. I'm going to do that here. Probably start reading it this week, just to see how different it is from the movie. But as we start walking through this plot and we discuss the plot twist for this one that comes at the end, I feel like that's enough with the plot twist. Like, we're going back and forth too much. I don't know. This movie just has some struggles that those first two films in the franchise don't have. So, yeah, it's okay. Casting characters are okay. Story's okay. Score is what it is. It's not the same as the original. I mean, that's one of those classic scores that something's probably not going to be able to beat. This one's just there. Cinematography, it's fine. I don't feel like this film looks as good as the first two either. I just feel like everything about this third Psycho movie is a step down from everything we've gotten so far. First one's amazing. Second one's pretty good. And now we have this. But yeah, I'll stop there. Only a couple of production notes for this movie real quick before we get into the plot. This film takes place 1 month after the events of Psycho 2, and this was the lowest grossing film in the franchise. It's really all I've got as far as production notes. So I'm going to get another drink of coffee, and then we're going to start to walk through Psycho 3 and break down basically everything that I've been saying so far. All right, so we get our opening scene. We meet Maureen Coyle. She's a nun. We see that she's very depressed. She's having some issues. She's contemplating suicide. At one point, it looks like she's going to jump, and then she inadvertently causes another nun to fall and die. So she leaves the Covenant. She's hitchhiking. I said Covenant. I think it's just Covenant. Sorry. She's hitchhiking. She gets picked up by a guy named Dwayne. There's a storm, and so Dwayne pulls over to rest. But then in the middle of the night, Dwayne assaults her. So she slaps him, gets out of the car, and he takes off and leaves her there. That's the opening for this film. Yeah, it is what it is. Honestly, it's not. It's not even it is what it is. I don't like the opening to this movie. And I think it's because we're introducing another character into this franchise now with Maureen, who obviously has some issues as well, but we have no idea why. And I just said we don't need a lot of backstory on our main villains, and I'm going to stand by that. But this is not our main villain. This is supposed to be our heroine of the movie, and all we know is that she's a nun and she wants to kill herself, and we have no idea what has got her at this point in her life. And so we're just going to introduce her as being someone suicidal. We're going to have this accidental death, and she's going to leave. Now we're going to bring in another villain for the most part in Dwayne. We're going to see him try to assault her and her take off. And I'm just like, okay, uh, okay. I mean, it does nothing for me. So I don't know. I just I don't remember. Well, I don't say I don't remember it. I just talked about it. I didn't remember this opening from when I had seen this film before. I've seen the first Psycho multiple times. I've seen the second Psycho a few times. I've probably only seen this third movie once or twice prior to my rewatch here the other day. Um, and I never remember this opening. I'm always just like, oh yeah, I want to see Norman, that kind of thing. So, opening scene, in my opinion, it's there. I don't want to say it's terrible, but I don't like it at the same time. I'm just like, what? Why? What are we doing? But yeah, that's the opening. We then go to the Bates Motel, and now we get Norman, and we see him performing, this taxidermy on these dead birds. We see newspaper clippings of Mrs. Spool, who is missing, and then we get a flashback from where Norman kills her with the shovel in the second film. Um, and then now Dwayne, he ends up arriving at the motel. He sees this help wanted sign. He and Norman talk a little bit. Norman ends up hiring Dwayne to be his assistant manager, which gives Dwayne a free room, and he's needing someplace to stay, so that works. We then cut to the diner, which we also saw in the second film. We see some of returning characters and the guy that's the cook there, the sheriff, that kind of thing. We also meet this journalist named Tracy who's talking about Norman, and she's one, kind of doing a piece on Norman and things like that. While Tracy's talking about him, Norman arrives, and so then Tracy goes to talk to her, and her piece is actually on the insanity plea and murder, that kind of thing. Sorry, I made that note, I just missed it. While Tracy's talking with Norman, now Maureen ends up arriving at this diner. Norman sees her. She's got a suitcase, and on her suitcase is her initials, MC. Norman thinks that this MC reminds him of Marion, and Norman seems to think that she looks like Marion. We get a flashback of the classic shower scene. Norman panics because of the same initials and the resemblance, and so he ends up leaving. A lot goes on here in this diner scene. Again, we see some returning characters from the second film. It's fine. Dwayne, who we've established that we don't like, we've seen him show up and come to work for Norman. That's not bad, because I think we feel like this is somebody who could trigger Norman, so I'm okay with this. But I don't buy. Maureen looks nothing like Marion, in my opinion. I mean, absolutely nothing. So I don't get that. I don't see the resemblance there, and that's a big part of this part of the movie here is the resemblance, but I don't see it. I also don't completely understand. So, in the first Psycho film, we learn at the end of it that Norman had actually killed other people as well. Marion was not his first victim. He had killed other ones before her. And then in the second film, then, yes, we have Marion's sister very involved, and, just a lot going on there. I don't understand completely, and maybe it's just me, but for Marion to be the victim that is, it's for the movie, but I'm like, we act like at some point I feel like the movie's acting like this is the only person Norman's ever killed, and so anything that reminds him of her is causing him issues. I feel like that's what they're trying to do here, but he's killed multiple people. So I don't understand. To me, that part of the story just doesn't work. Yeah, I don't know. Something about that doesn't set with me. I get what they're trying to do, but it doesn't make sense because he killed other people as well. Maybe he had an attachment to her. Maybe that's why this is stronger. It's fine. But again, I don't think, because I'm not impressed with the Maureen character, and because I don't see the resemblance that Norman supposedly sees, I just don't buy this. And so with her showing up at the diner, we were introduced to this journalist, Tracy, who we can already tell we're not going to like, because she's also going to trigger Norman to a certain degree. I mean, she's trying to investigate, and that's fine, but uh, she's not great either, in my opinion. So we're like, okay, here's another new character that I'm not fond of. Um, and now we're going to do this attachment between Norman and this Maureen that I don't see either. So I'm really struggling on my rewatch the other day. It's funny how rewatches affect you with this film. Um, After Norman panic and leaves, Maureen, excuse me, Maureen, fuck, I can't talk, ends up arriving at the motel. She has a run-in with Dwayne from their issue before, but they seem to work it out, which is also odd to me. She ends up getting a room. We hear Mother's voice, so now we know that Norman is hearing Mother again. Um, we see at one point that now he has Mrs. Spool's body. He ends up like pushing it over to the window and is talking to her as Mother. We get some flashbacks of Maureen. We can tell she's very depressed because she's thinking about the covenants that she left, and she's crying. Uh, Dwayne, we get kind of a scene here between Dwayne and Tracy at a bar where Dwayne's hitting on her. Then when Tracy finds out he works at the Bates Motel, she wants to talk to him and try to get his help with investigating Norman. We also see Norman really struggling and going through some things. He's spying on Maureen as she gets ready to take a shower. And then Mother, Norman dresses his mother and ends up entering the hotel room to kill Maureen. But we end up finding her in the bathtub with her wrist slit, where she has tried to commit suicide. Again, here, just to kind of sum this up, I was still struggling tremendously because first of all, we don't like Tracy. We don't like Dwayne, or I don't like Tracy. We don't like Dwayne. And so now they're going to try to work together to bring Norman down. That just kind of makes you dislike them more. Whatever with these two characters. We're still dealing with Maureen and her depression and her issues, but we don't know why she feels this way. So I'm kind of not on board with this. And then to see Norman starting to struggle again and spy on her like he did with Marion, fine. Kind of some flashback, fine. But then, Mother goes to kill her and she's slit her wrists. And I'm just like, oh, okay. She went ahead and decided to commit suicide. Whatever. I don't know. This movie, I don't want to say this is a bad movie. I don't think this movie's terrible, but I just don't feel like I was buying almost anything that was happening in this film on my rewatch. We're about halfway through now. We find out Maureen wakes up in a hospital. We find out that Norman is the one that's taken her to the hospital. We start to get a hint there as they're talking about them starting to develop some kind of a romance and things like that here. Norman offers to let her stay at the hotel and recover. We hear Norman and Mother arguing again. We finally get to Dwayne, who ends up meeting a girl at this bar, brings her back to the hotel. They end up having sex, and then he kicks her out. She goes to use a payphone, and we finally get our first kill here now of this film. As while this girl is using the payphone, Mother attacks her and ends up stabbing her to death. And then, of course, Norman cleans up the mess. Not a bad kill. This all looks good. Finally, I was like, oh, okay, cool. We got a good kill. Like something's happening now in this film. But yeah, I enjoyed that part. We get Maureen talking to a priest. We get more of Tracy and Dwayne talking now at the hotel. This big group arrives at the hotel because there's a football game close by that everyone wants to go to. Like, this is a setup for maybe a lot more kills, basically. I mean, this is body count is what we've got here. Is we've got people showing up, and we're thinking, oh, how many of these people are going to get killed now? We cut back to Tracy, this journalist, as she's searching Miss Spool's apartment. She finds the phone number for the Bates Motel written down on multiple things. So she knows that Spool was trying to contact Norman. We get Norman and Maureen on a date. They start to make out, and Norman kind of panics and leaves. And then we get him and Mother arguing. One of the female guests, like I said, the body count thing. We get another kill where Mother attacks somebody else there. One of these guests at the hotel and kills them. It's fine. Even that I feel like is a little bit different because Norman had no attachment to this other guest, and that's what it seemed like the whole thing of Psycho is that Norman gets attached to some female and then Mother kills him, but Norman had no attachment to this victim, so this doesn't make a lot of sense to me to have this kill, but okay. Yeah, and again, then we have Norman finding the body. The next morning, the police arrive. They're looking for this missing girl as this group has now left the hotel. We get kind of a funny scene where the sheriff has looked around, they can't find the body, and Norman's hidden the body in the ice chest. And so the sheriff is standing there, he's like eating ice out of the ice chest. We see a hand sticking up, we see blood, but because the sheriff is talking to Norman and Tracy and Dwayne and all these other people, he's not seeing it. How you wouldn't taste the blood on the ice, I have no idea, but okay. Um, Tracy ends up telling Maureen about Norman's past, and so Maureen kind of gets worried and leaves and goes to stay with a priest that she was talking to. Norman's looking around for Mother and cannot find her, but does find a note that says that she's in cabin 12. When he goes to cabin 12, it is Dwayne, and he now has Mrs. Spool's body. And so we then kind of, Dwayne's threatening Norman. We get a little bit of a fight between them. Norman's able to knock him out with the guitar. We cut back into Tracy again, and she discovers that Miss Spool also worked at the diner. And we also find out that Mrs. Spool was in an asylum, that she also had murdered someone at one point and had some issues as well. So, this Tracy lady is putting this all together. Maureen decides to return to Norman. So she's headed back to the motel. Norman has loaded up this girl's body that he had in the ice chest and Dwayne's body into the car and is trying to take them to the swamp, but Dwayne's still alive. He attacks Norman again in the car. They fight some more and the car crashes. Norman's able to escape. Dwayne drowns. After Norman gets back to his home, then Maureen arrives. For a moment, we feel like they start to have an embrace there at the top of the stairs. But then Norman hears Mother's voice and it causes him to panic, and he inadvertently knocks Maureen down the stairs where she ends up dying. Yeah, I feel like the movie has picked up here as far as maybe the pacing a little bit. We've got things happening. But again, there's just so many characters in this that I'm not invested in. Like Tracy and her whole investigation and the stuff with Mrs. Spool is leading to a plot twist that I don't care about because I don't like Tracy and I'm getting kind of tired of this story. So not that big a deal to me. Norman and Dwayne battling a couple of times, and then finally, we get an end to Dwayne. That's fine. Maureen going back to see Norman, and then he accidentally kills her. I thought was kind of cheap. It's a cheap kill. We could have gotten something much better there. We get ready to, I think we're getting ready to wrap this up. Let me just glance at my notes here briefly. Yeah. As we get to the finale of this film, Tracy now arrives at the motel. She finds Maureen's body. She sees Norman dressed as Mother. Tracy's trying to reason with Norman at this point so that he doesn't kill her. And here's where we get our little plot twist, because in the second film, we hear that Mrs. Spool is actually Norman's mother, but now we're finding out that that's not the case. Mrs. Spool was his aunt, that she was in love with Norman's father, but Norman's mother ended up taking him away from Mrs. Spool, which caused her to go crazy. She killed Norman's father, and then she kidnapped Norman before she was caught and put in an asylum. Hearing all of this from Tracy kind of causes Norman to really freak out, and he just starts stabbing Mrs. Spool's corpse instead. Like he's trying to get rid of Mother. The police then arrive and arrest Norman. Actually, we see this happening the next day. The police arrive that morning and they're arresting Norman. And in the car, as they're pulling away, we see Norman, with a creepy smile, and he has kept Mrs. Spool's severed hand and is massaging that. And that's the end of Psycho 3. And here, too, I feel like the confrontation between Tracy and Norman could have been better. The plot twist did nothing for me because I'm tired of us going back and forth on who Norman's real mother is. I would like to have seen Norman kill Tracy because I don't like that character, but instead he goes off on a corpse to try to rid himself of Mother, which, I see where they were going with this. It just doesn't land great for me. The next morning when the sheriff is arresting Norman, he's kind of going off on him like, I trusted you, I believed in you, you're going to be in jail for the rest of your life. And then I feel like we try to, again, recreate the scene from the first film where we see, Norman sitting in the jail cell with this very creepy smile, and we hear Mother's voice. I feel like we tried to recreate that here with him sitting in the car and giving us a little bit of a smile and caressing the hand, but it just doesn't have that same feel or that same effect. That's Psycho 3. I don't know. This one just doesn't do it for me. I feel like they tried to recreate something. I see where they were trying to go with this movie. I get what they were swinging for, but in my opinion, it just doesn't land and it just doesn't work. Nothing in this movie is anywhere not even on the same path of the first film, and doesn't measure up to the second one either. Psycho 3 is very disappointing to me. I thought I liked this film better than I did, but upon my rewatch the other day, I just had so many issues with it. Maybe because this time I was watching it more to review it, and like trying to pick apart things and be able to talk about it instead of just throwing it on. But yeah, I don't. This is not a horrible movie. This is a horrible Psycho movie. That's what doesn't work about it. Is it's trying to be part of the Psycho franchise, and it just doesn't work. Take out the Bates Motel and take out the character of Norman, and just make this a slasher film about some. I don't know that you could even do that with what they do. I don't know. This does not work as a Psycho movie. It's not a terrible movie, but it's a terrible Psycho movie. I really think it's the only way I know to put this. So I'm not going to rank it. It's yeah. I don't like it. I don't hate it. I almost hate it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Psycho 3. I think on my scale of 1 to 10, I will give Psycho 3 a 4. I'll say 4 out of 10 for Psycho 3, and that's being generous. And that is just because I do like Norman Bates' character and I do like Anthony Perkins. They're just not as good in this film. So 4 out of 10 for me on Psycho 3. Now I want to know what you think. If you've seen this movie, do you think it measures up at all to the first film, second film, that kind of thing? Are you a fan? Or does this one really fall off for you as well? Let me know your thoughts. Leave me some comments and let me know your thoughts on Psycho 3. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Got a couple of fun episodes coming up this week with some returning friends. Mike from Mike and Serial is going to be on with me. We're going to be talking about All Hallows Eve. We've gone through the 3 Terrifier films, and so now we're going to talk about this. And then Isaiah from The Bitter Wolf returning. It's been a while since Isaiah's been on. He and I have talked about the first 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, but he's going to come back on and we're going to talk about the third one. So, yeah, some good stuff this week. Next week, I also have some great episodes coming up. Probably be doing a review of The Back Rooms. Sarah and Kelly from the Final Girls podcast are going to be back on with me to talk about the first Final Destination movie. Brendan from Our Life in Horror is going to be on. He and I are actually going to be talking about a superhero film, Batman vs. Superman. So fun stuff coming up. Subscribe so you don't miss anything. Follow me on social media, pretty much on everything out there. Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, Letterboxd. Just search Sean's Horror Corner and you can find any of it. So like, comment, hype, subscribe, share, do all the things, and I will see you soon.